Getting back into the workforce can be intimidating for anyone, but stay-at-home parents trying to get back to work face some extra challenges. Tom Gimbel is founder and CEO of LaSalle Network, a staffing and recruiting firm based right here in Chicago. And Tom is joining us this morning with some advice for parents if you're in that situation right now. Good morning, Tom.
Good to see you.
Always good to see you.
Yeah.
It's not an easy decision to stay home, help raise the family when the
Right.
kids are young. Now, some challenges trying to get back into the workforce.
It's a hard decision, and when you're looking at the unemployment, I think a lot of it is more mental than reality, is the intimidation of, are there jobs out there? What am I qualified for? If there aren't a lot, where do I fit into the mix? How much money do I need to cover daycare, so on and so forth?
Okay, let's answer all those questions for all the parents, right, who are concerned about that. How is the job market? Can people jump back in right now?
Yeah, I think the job market's good. If you're qualified and if you have a skill set and if you have an attitude and if you're flexible with what you're willing to do, there's a great job market. I think so often you have people who pigeonhole themselves. I'm only willing to do this. I'm only willing to do it for this much money. I only can work these hours. You've got to make it a realistic situation for the employer as well as for yourself.
Okay, Tom has some practical advice for everybody. First of all, you say pick 5 companies. What do you mean by that?
You got to start somewhere, and if you throw a huge wide net too far, you can't follow up with everything. So while you're a stay-at-home parent, you're still managing the family, the kids, everything that goes on there. So don't go after 100 companies. Pick 5. Look on LinkedIn. Start to use your network and find out if you can get in contact with people who actually work at those 5 companies.
Can you make connections with people on LinkedIn that you don't even know and say, can I meet up and talk about the job?
Yeah, I think you have to be careful, right? Because people are getting LinkedIn invitations by every John, Dick, and Harry out there, and you got to make sure that you actually are paying attention to who you're contacting and why you're choosing those people.
What about the resume gaps that you have now?
Admit it. Acknowledge what is true. Most people have a good amount of common sense. They can read a resume and figure out that you haven't been working. Don't try to beat around the bush. State it bluntly. This is where I was, this is what I've been doing.
And have realistic expectations?
Yeah, I think so often people say, I've been out of the workforce for 5, 7, 10 years, and I want to make what someone who's been in the workforce for that exact same amount of time is making. It's just not always that realistic unless you have such a unique skill set.
Now, what about people who are thinking about doing something different than what they were doing before they took that leave of absence?
I think it's a great opportunity for people to get in and try a different field. Again, it comes back to flexibility. And the hard part is when you're going back from being a stay-at-home parent is how much money do I want, how much money do I need, and then how much is somebody going to pay me for something I've never done before.
Yeah.
So if your expectations are realistic, I think it makes a lot of sense.
Lose your ego? Really?
Well,
Thanks, Tom.
Personally, I think everybody should a little bit. But when you're re-entering the workforce, I think you have to be fairly realistic that you may not be as great as you thought you were. And when you're coming back in, be confident that you're going to do well. Be confident that you're going to work really, really hard. Be confident that you're going to bring a great attitude. But as far as, oh, I'm only worth this much money, you got to come in with some realistic expectations.
All right, good information, Tom. Thank you, as always.
Always good to be here.
Okay, and by the way, you can find all this information and a link to LaSalle Network on our website.